Hi everyone, I wanted to do a real quick video here and kind of talk about some of the rod, reel, and line uses that I use when throwing some of the big swim baits. Appreciate everyone for taking some time to check out the video, and we'll get right into it. So first up is the Daiwa Tatula 7.3 Swimbait rod with a Tatula 200 reel on it. I've got the 6.3 gear ratio reel with 15-pound copolymer McCoy line on it. So as y'all can tell here, I've been using mostly this is one of the hot rod shads in kind of a crank down version. It'll dive to about 6 feet. But I really like this rod. I actually was using this rod a little bit earlier in some of my previous videos. You'll kind of see it with the Alabama rig. It's a really good rod. Loads up rather well, especially with the Alabama rig. I haven't had the rod long enough really to catch one yet on the big swim baits yet, but it throws them just fine. I'd say the rod kind of maxes out probably around the 3-ounce range. It's rated up to 4, but it can throw up to 3 fairly comfortably. You're not really straining yourself or getting hurt doing it. The reel works phenomenally. The 200 size is just big enough to where I don't really worry about the bearings or anything of the reel too bad, and I haven't had any issues whatsoever with it. Kind of as you'll see with most of my baits, I do throw a snap on most of them. I don't direct line tie. A lot of that's for the speed if I wanted to switch out baits, but as well I think it gives the baits just a little bit better action, especially the glide baits. I really like how it allows them to cut and flow through the water a lot better. But so there's my first setup, and I do, speaking kind of to the action of the rod, let's see here if I can get this in the camera angle, but not really. It does load up rather well. It has a nice parabolic kind of bend to it. It's kind of got a little bit more in the tip, probably closer to kind of like a faster action, but it works rather well for all of them, and it throws them really nicely. Okay, next up is, this is a Dobbins Fury. This is the 795 or the medium heavy swim bait rod. I'm really liking this rod. I've had this rod now for probably two years, and it's been working rather well. Really enjoy it. Caught several Alabama rig fish on it, and then also all of my fish on the new, so this is the Jethro glide bait. The Jethro Shad Glide. This one's in bubblegum shad. But once again, I've got the Decoy Egg Snap. This is a size number 4. I do have size number 5s, but for most of the baits that I've been throwing here recently, the size 4 has done wonderful. This bait, I've currently got the Swimbait Underground hooks on it. I'm really liking those hooks. They're very light, they work well in the water, as well as they're extremely sharp. And then number 3 split rings from Swimbait Underground also, and they're rated up to 90-pound strength, so I don't really worry too much about them. But going back into the rod, the 795, I've not had any issues with it. I've been able to throw anything really up to that 3.5 borderline 4-ounce range and have no issues throwing it. I have thrown a 6-ounce bait, and the rod's rated up to 5 ounces. I've never had any issues with it, being able to even throw a 6-ounce bait. It does overload the rod to a degree, so I probably wouldn't recommend throwing many of the 6 ounces or plus on it. It's just so taxing on the rod, and you really have to kind of work your body a lot to try to be able to throw that and effectively cast it without worrying about breaking your rod. For the reel, this is the Daiwa Tatula 300, and this one's in the 8-to-1. I really wanted to try the higher speed gear ratio reels with the swim bait rods, and I'm really liking it. One of the greatest benefits to this is if you're paralleling a bank or you're trying to work a bank fairly quickly, especially with this bait, or I guess really any of the kind of chopping style baits, it just helps so much with being able to keep up with the bait. So paralleling the bank, I mean, just trolling motor on, 40–50%, you can cover so much water so effectively with that 8-to-1 because it's picking up your line so fast, and you're still allowed to be able to get that bait to do its really nice cut. More like your traditional like spook kind of deal under the water, so you're really chopping it hard and getting that bait to really fly out. And it's been working really good. I really like that, this rod and reel combo, especially for this size of bait. It's perfect to throw it. It loads great, no issues there. It's been one of my favorites that I've got so far. Okay, so lastly, this is the other Dobyns Fury rod that I have. It's the 806, so this is the 8-foot 6-power, the heavy rod. I really like this rod. Once again, I've caught plenty of Alabama rig fish on it. I do have a couple other glide baits that I've used, in particular the SHS shad. I caught some really nice largemouth on it using this rod. I was actually catching them out from under docks. This rod, as you can kind of see, I do have a different snap on here, and I've also got a split ring tied to this bait. But this snap is the Gamakatsu with the barrel swivel on it, so it's snap swivel. Works great. I really prefer that. I'm probably going to get some more. This is the size number 4, but to be able to add to the other glide baits that I use, it just helps with the helicoptering and preventing a lot of line twists that you'd encounter otherwise. So that's the rod. The reel is the Daiwa Lexa 300 size. So I started out using the Lexas prior to getting the 300. I got the 300 back this past March, and I really like the Lexas. They hold a ton of line. I've never had any issues with them. They work great. The only advantage I see right now to the 300 is the 300 does come in that 8-to-1, and I think the Lexas max out at 7. No big deal there if you really want to keep like the 6. This one in particular is a 6-to-1 gear ratio. Works great for your big top water. So this is a 12-inch wooden top water. It's got 2 joints in it. Yeah, this is a bait that we call the Happy Pappy. I haven't really done a video as to what this bait kind of does in the water, but it's got a beautiful wake to it. Makes a ton of noise. It is a wooden bait, so it's a little bit heavier than some of the resin baits that I pour. It is more along the 6-ounce range, which this rod takes beautifully. It's a really nice parabolic bend. When a year or so ago, I was on a really good topwater wake bite, and using this rod, the rod just handles it so wonderfully. The big wooden baits, they tend to weigh a little bit more, so that heavier rod really benefits you there. Once again, I'm using McCoy copolymer. For this rod, I've actually got 20-pound McCoy on it versus 15 on the other two. I've never had any issues with the line. I do have one rod actually laced up with fluorocarbon. It's typically the rod that I use for throwing any of my larger soft baits like the Huddleston. But I use 20-pound Seagar Brazex on it, and I haven't had any issues there. Personally, I'm not a huge braid deleter person. I've had a few issues in the past with the braid kind of cinching in on itself, and it kind of locks up your ability to cast. That's probably more of my issue. I know a lot of people really like braid, and it works great for them, and it's wonderful. But I haven't actually ventured back that route just due to the fact that I haven't had any issues with the copolymer. As far as like this time of year, spring, summer early part of fall. I really like the copolymer line. It doesn't seem to interfere with the action of the bait any. It seems to work really well with the bait. The only reason that I would switch to the fluorocarbon is if I were going to try to go a little bit deeper, because the fluorocarbon will allow the bait to sink a little bit for the glide baits. Any of my wakes I'll keep with the copolymer, but yeah. So I just wanted to kind of give an overview as to kind of some of the rod reels line that I use on when I throw my big swim baits. I hope everyone you know, gets something from this and kind of helps with any sort of learning, or just you know, we can have a conversation about like some best practices that I may have not figured out yet. I'm sure a lot of people have got some experience with Shimano Lures and Abu rod and reels that I personally just haven't had a chance to try yet. And I guess you can kind of say I'm a big fan of the Daiwa reels. But if you have any questions about any of this, just leave a comment below and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as I can. If you have any questions about the baits, I'll do my best to answer those also. As far as the baits go, if you're interested in them, all the links are down below. You can message me through Facebook, email, Instagram. Any of those work just fine. And I really appreciate you all taking the time to check out this video, kind of see what my rod reel line setups were. And I hope you catch a big one out there, and hope to talk to you real soon. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.